Now, the biggest issue he faces is getting on the ballot in every single state. He's on the ballot in 2 states, New Hampshire and Utah. I'd also asked him about something I'd heard President Trump had called him early on and asked him about being his VP. I asked if it were true. Take a look. If he asked you that today, what would your response be?
I would not take that job. I'm flattered that President Trump would offer it to me, but it's not something that I'm interested in.
Did he reach out, or his team?
People from the team have reached out to me.
The Trump campaign denies any such approach. Chris LaCivita, a senior advisor to the former president, says, just want to get this quote right, no one from the Trump campaign ever approached RFK Jr. or ever will. Now, clearly, Mr. Kennedy has a different version of those events. But I would find it difficult to see Kennedy going into a Trump cabinet, though they do share some, I suppose, common ground in terms of skepticism of the US aid to Ukraine, in terms of skepticism about COVID vaccines, frankly. Those sort of issues provide some sliver of common ground.
Let me talk about your campaign. The poll numbers, some of them more impressive than others. Those competitive states where the Times and Siena has you in the mid-20s from last fall, impressive. There it is. We're showing it on the screen. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. But it only comes to fruition if you can get on those state ballots. Are you going to get on those state ballots?
Yeah, we'll be on the ballot in every state. I mean, as you pointed out at the beginning of the show, we got into New Hampshire. People said it would take us weeks to get the signature. We needed 3,000 signatures in New Hampshire. We got 5,000 in a single day. So we have a ground team that, in all of the states where we can collect signatures, we're doing that now.
Could Robert Kennedy Jr. play spoiler in 2024? That's the concern for some Democrats as the independent presidential candidate pushes for ballot access in all 50 states. Right now, let's look at polling. RFK Jr. does have a decent amount of support, 18%, though former President Trump still has quite the lead over him and, well, President Biden.
There's about 27 states, Michael, where you need a vice presidential candidate to start collecting signatures, but we have until August, so we're not going to have a problem getting on the ballot. We will be on the ballot
okay, let me ask you this.
States and the District of Columbia.
Is it possible that you will seek, as you are running as an independent, you will seek still to be the Libertarian candidate, which would assure you getting on all 50 state ballots?
That's something that we're looking at. We have a really good relationship with the Libertarian Party. I'm going to be speaking at the California Libertarian Party convention. I think it's next week or maybe in a couple of weeks. And then we're talking about me speaking in New York. But, so that is, and then we have our own political party now in 6 states. Which have rules that make that give us an advantage to have our own political party. We're not going to have a problem
I ask you the question because Angela McArdle, the head of the Libertarian Party. Catherine, do we have the sound of this, by the way? Tell me quickly. Okay, I want to play something for the audience. This is the head of the Libertarian Party on my radio show in the fall. Roll it.
So we've had a lot of good conversations and we're on good terms. And I respect his decision to want to go independent. The Libertarians really admire the strong position he took against mandates and lockdowns. And so we're going to stay on friendly terms and see what happens.
Bobby, make some news. I mean, it sounded to me like she's welcoming you to come in and ask for their ballot position.
Yeah, well, we are talking to the Libertarian Party, and I feel very comfortable with most of the values of the Libertarian Party. We, like I say, we have good relationships. I'm talking regularly to Libertarian groups. So we'll continue to do those talks. I can't give you a headline news story today, Michael. I'm sorry. Ask about something different. I'm beating them in independence, which is now the largest political party. So I think that probably is concerned to both the DNC and the RNC and their corporate supporters.
Now, I also asked him about media coverage and whether he feels that he's been essentially frozen out of the conversation by the main networks? He says, absolutely, Hannah.
Rich, I've been on the campaign trail. It's very exciting. I am curious, what was the energy like at Kennedy's rally in West Virginia yesterday? Was there a lot of energy? Did people feel like they were looking at their next president?
It was, first of all, it was packed. I mean, this is the country. We're 3 hours from any major city, but it was packed, and there was a lot of cheering and a lot of applause, unprompted. So the people here like him, and there was definitely an energy that was unmistakable, for sure.
I'm beating both President Trump and President Biden among all Americans in the battleground states, everybody under 45 years old.
His poll numbers rising. He's fighting to get on the general election ballot, and Bobby Kennedy Jr. is striking a nerve. Someone in Democratic circles called your recent polling a mirage, and that it means nothing because you won't get the key battleground states. You won't get on the ballot there. Would you like to respond?
Yeah, I'll be on the ballot in every state and the District of Columbia. They said it was going to take us weeks or months to get on the ballot in New Hampshire. They had 3,000 signatures. We got 5,000 in one day.
Running as an independent, he's been called a potential spoiler for both parties, and he says Trump courted him early on for VP. If he asked you that today, what would your response be?
I would not take that job. I'm flattered that President Trump would offer it to me, but it's not something that I'm interested in.
Did he reach out? Or his team?
People from the team have reached out to me.
Last week, he tweeted, "Texas is right. Biden's failure to secure the border leaves states no choice but to take matters into their own hands."
I believe that under the Constitution, that Texas has a right to defend its border. Under Article 4 of the Constitution, the U.S. has the obligation to defend states against invasions by a foreign country. This is unsustainable.
Kennedy also says despite his polling success, he's frozen out of the conversation and the big networks don't interview him.
I'm a presidential candidate with substantial support from the American people, and I think people should be able to hear my positions on the issues.
Why do you think they haven't asked?
I think that a lot of the things I say challenge the orthodoxies of the liberal ideology, the conservative ideology. So, I think that there is a bias on those networks about allowing those other voices.
Now, Kennedy insists that he will be on the ballot in every state. It's hard to imagine, Markey, if he does get on the ballot, that he's not even a contender or at very least a real issue for both parties.
Yeah, and that's where we've tried to be different, right? I mean, we've tried to give every voice a platform. We held that town hall with him, a few months back, but he certainly has an uphill battle ahead of him. Rich McHugh, thanks so much. Always good to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.